Welcome into the Dynasty Football Key. Hey, good morning, everybody. We got our earliest live of the whole offseason, and we're closing out the offseason with none other than John Laub, the Gridiron Scholar. Welcome in, John. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to join you, my friend. And it's great to come on your show. We got to meet each other when we were at the expo. It was so wonderful to chat with you and everything. And now we actually get to talk football without all the amazing stuff. If you didn't go to the expo, there's all types of panels. There's exhibitions. There's people to talk to. It's so much. But now we're just one-on-one. And kickoff for week 0, my friend, is less than 6 days away. I'm freaking out. I'm so excited.
Yeah, man, I'm super excited. And guys, just before we forget, you can find John on Twitter, X at Gridiron Skull 91. So check him out there. He's doing great work for the Gridiron Scholar, Ricky Big Board, and the Player Profiler as well. So
Yeah.
doing a lot, man. But I know you're all about college football, so I thought none other than having you on this show would be perfect before week 0. And I think that's kick some things off because I've got a top 10 list that I was wanting to get from you as far as who you're watching up for this next season. You know, maybe these dynasty gamers can get a little bit of a peek at who's coming down the road and get a feel for who they should be watching out for, keeping an eye on this season. So let's go ahead and take a look, man. So we've got, we've got the schedule up here, and this Saturday. I mean, 4 days away, John. Are you ready, man? We got Florida State, who obviously got snubbed in that championship round this last season, but they're ranked 10, so we at least got a ranked team this week 0 matchup. And I'll just stick with Florida State. In week 1, they've got another matchup. It's just so many games. I already lost it. Oh yeah, here Boston College. So they'll have a quick turnaround. But yeah, man. I wanted to see from your perspective. There's not too much of the week 0 matchup, but I mean, we could start there. Who are some players that you are watching out for to kick off this season?
Well, let's start with Florida State and Georgia Tech because I think that's a very interesting game for week 0. I expect it to be the most highly anticipated and watched game. It's actually a miniature week 0 compared to other years. There's only 4 games on week 0, right? One of them is the Hawaii game from, I think it starts at midnight, and I think it's only pay-per-view from what I understand. Yeah, so I'm kind of bumming about that because I do like watching the rainbows late at night. So we go to the Georgia State-Georgia Tech matchup, and there are some real big players. First, Florida State. You got to understand, they've completely changed that roster. I mean, their returning skill position percentage is very low. From their starting lineup is very low. Just look at last. Keon Coleman is gone. Jordan Travis is gone. Trey Benson is gone. Their defense is decimated. Now, they still have talent. They're Florida State. But experience, game reps, game performance matters. So some of those are going to be very different. I think the biggest thing we have to think about is the quarterback. They brought in from the transfer portal DJ Uiagalelei, and I'm probably mispronouncing that wrong, so I apologize. This is his 3rd team. He's come from Clemson, then he went to Oregon State, and he came to Florida State. Coach Mike Norvell is a very good coordinator of offense. If DJ wants to recapture the promise of his high school profile, this is his last chance. Norvell is the guy to do it. He's been up and down. If he wasn't probably considered on the top 3 quarterbacks when he came into college, people might have a different perspective, but expectations were so high, my friend, that people think he's kind of been a failure. He's not as bad as the narrative around him is. He still has some pro potential. Obviously, it's not what it was 4 years ago, but I'm very interested to see how he does. Now, the rest of Florida State, who's in the rotation? Running back. It looks like running back by committee. Who's the wide receivers? Keon Coleman, Johnny Wilson are gone. So this is very interesting to see what Norvell brings to the table. Georgia Tech. There are 3 players I'm very interested in. Devy, college fantasy football, and possibly Dynasty. First is quarterback Haynes. He's from Texas A&M. He came on over to Georgia Tech. And last year, I think he surprised everyone. Haynes King. He was awesome. He was really good. I'm excited to see him in this game. Does he still take a step forward? What is he going to do? He's had a full year underneath his belt. He's borderline pro prospect right now. He's,
Okay.
maybe a 5th or 6th round pick. He needs to replicate last year's numbers to do it. But I'm very fascinated by him. The player I'm really looking forward to, sophomore wide receiver Eric Singleton. He was awesome last year, people. 48 receptions, 714 yards, 6 touchdowns as a true freshman. And he was basically the number 1 guy. So that's, to me, huge. Can he continue to take a step up? I would hope and I expect in my projections that he would have a 1,000-yard season this year based on good quarterback play. He improves as a player. I like him this year. And last but not least, I bet you if we polled 200 college football fans, I bet you no one would guess that Jamal Haynes was a 1,000-yard rusher last year. He had 1,059 yards rushing for Georgia Tech. He is a junior now, little undersized, 5'9", 190. And I only mean that by NFL standards. 190 is completely perfect for the college game. But in the NFL, we are looking at that 200-pound thresh mark. Hey, he averaged 6.1 yards per carry. He's a very exciting player. So I'm going to have my eyeballs on just my schedule scouting mind. I got 4 guys I'm watching before we kick off, my friend.
Yeah, well, it's going to be an exciting weekend, and I mean they're pulling out all the stops. I mean this game's in Dublin, so
yes, I even mentioned that. You're right. It starts at noon, right? So 11 a.m.
Yeah, so pretty crazy, man. We got a Vegas game, a Dublin game, and a Honolulu game, so it'll be fun for the players. And so awesome breakdown. I'm looking forward to that, and with the next week, we'll have to wait a whole nother week, but really only about 5 days or so to the Thursday kickoff. We got a pretty big slate of games, and behind the scenes, I had highlighted some of the ranked teams that I thought were some really good matchups for us to discuss, but I did want to do a little bit of fan service and talk about the University of Texas. Right behind me, I got Charles jersey. I'm here in Austin. That's where I graduated from. So,
congratulations.
Yeah.
Longhorns.
Yes, sir.
Welcome horns.
Yeah, man. So I want to know, man, how are we feeling about this team? This is the first time University of Texas entering in the SEC. So it's been long anticipated and awaited, elevation and competition. The team is good. They were in the playoff, contender team, right? They were a legit contender last season. We see some changes to the roster. Obviously, you lose an Xavier Worthy, a Jatavian Sanders. Those are starting players, or obviously Jonathan Brooks as well. We got a bit of a QB situation to watch, but how are you feeling about this Texas situation entering week 2 versus Michigan? Or I guess it's this week it'll be versus Michigan. So yeah, man, how are you feeling about that matchup?
I think they are in a good position.
Oh, and sorry, it's Colorado State this week. I had highlighted the week 2 matchup versus Michigan.
They are in a very good position. If you're going to make the transition into the SEC, you better bring your big boy pants, and you better have a roster that is ready to compete at the highest level. I think one of the challenges for Oklahoma and Texas is they are the new kids on the block, and every SEC team is going to want to beat them. They're going to have to bring their big game every week. Now, if you're Alabama, you're Georgia, you're Tennessee, I think you're a little bit more accustomed to the gauntlet of this conference, especially when you're going on the road against teams like Mississippi, Mississippi State. They can punch you in the mouth at any given time. Even Auburn, Alabama always has to deal with Auburn at the end of the season. So here comes Texas. And in general, when they were in the Big 12, Oklahoma and Texas had games that were a little easier. I don't think they're going to get very many easy games in the SEC. But what I'll say I'm a big Steve Sarkisian fan. I believe he's a very good coach. There's two things. Yes, you mentioned some players, Xavier Worthy, Jatavian Sanders, Jonathan Brooks. They're gone. So you lose key skill position players. But anyone who's watched football as long as I and you have, it comes down to the trenches the majority of the time. From what I remember, I think Texas is returning at least 4 of their offensive linemen, and their offensive line was very good. One of the things that Shark has done over the last couple years, I'm sure you remember as a Longhorns fan, their offensive line was terrible 3 years ago. Just brutal. Shark has improved that offensive line. If you bring the line to the road in the SEC, and they're going to battle against some of those defensive lines and linebackers, Texas has a fighter's chance. And they're bringing an experienced quarterback. There's all different types of perspectives about Quinn Ewers, and he's an interesting Dynasty NFL pro prospect. But at the end of the day, you've got a young man who completed a full season at quarterback, plenty of games underneath his belt. And if I got an offensive lineman and a quarterback, I think I'm in pretty good position. He has reloaded at the skill position with the pass catcher, so I think they're okay there. My main concern now, losing Cedric Baxter is a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, I like Jadon Blue, but he's 200 pounds, a little undersized. He's a home run hitter. He's a speedster, right? His 100-meter time and 200-meter time in high school is off the charts. But sometimes you need that pounder. And if you're up by 8 points at Mississippi, or Florida or Arkansas, you're going to want that big back in the fourth quarter. I don't know if Texas has that right now. Baxter, to me, was going to be that guy. So we'll see how they overcome the running back spot. But I expect them to be about 10-2. Maybe 9-3 if things go bad. I don't think they'll run the gauntlet undefeated like they did last year.
Yeah, man, and that was a nice season, but we'll see what happens this year. I'm trying to hold out hope. I do think Ewers can just hold the job down. It would really be catastrophic if for him, his career-wise, if he couldn't. But I think there's a good team around him, so let's see what they do. And I wanted to just quickly highlight.
I got one quick question for you, my friend. What does the Texas community think about Arch Manning?
Well, we're excited that we've got a Manning in the building. Like, you have so much hope that you have your quarterback situation really good, maybe the best in the league for years to come. And all that hype, we just think this guy could be amazing because even if it wasn't for injuries, his dad was supposed to be good. His grandfather was great. His uncles are great. So we think he'll be great. And we understand with Ewers, he was a top prospect. They all had the best scores coming out, on 24/7 Sports and stuff like that. So, I mean, we're feeling good. It's a good problem to have, man. Like we want to see him just for the fun of it, and was definitely glad to see him back in the college football game. I'm subbing him in for Ewers in the game, but yeah, man, it's a good problem to have two quarterbacks you can rely on. And I had pulled up the one of your recent draft boards for college fantasy, just to kind of highlight. You were talking about Jadon Blue taking over for Cedric Baxter, and you see he's vaulted all the way up to the second round.
Yeah.
What does this mean for Cedric Baxter, maybe for Dynasty football? Is he going to have to wait another season? Like we saw Jonathan Brooks have a season-ending injury, but he got to prove a lot throughout that season. Is it basically for sure Baxter's going back to school and needs to need some more time before you go to the league?
I mean, I would say he needs to go back and jumpstart that NFL draft capital. I don't think there's enough on tape last year that is overly impressive. He had his moments because remember he did basically start after Jonathan Brooks went down with the injury, but it's not great tape. It's good, but it's not great. He needed to put some excellent tape on season.
Yeah, man. All right, well, let's move on here. I got another good matchup to be honest, because I was alluding to that week 2 matchup with Michigan, I feel like that's another team where we're losing a lot of players, and maybe it's worth the discussion. I mean, how do you feel about Michigan and what they've got going on this season? We lost Roman Wilson. We lost their quarterback, who the Vikings ended up losing, unfortunately. But, lots of other good talent like a Blake Corum. How are you feeling? I mean, I definitely think Edwards is coming out this next season. So I'm curious your thoughts for fantasy football, where he might slot. Is he a round 2, round 3, guy, something like that? But yeah, how are you feeling about this Michigan team for 2024?
One, I can't wait to see Michigan, Texas. However, and as you know, I don't want to be biased. I am a Michigan fan. I believe, if my memory serves me, out of their 2-team depth chart, so that would be 44 players from last year's squad, I think they're bringing back 2 or 3 players.
Wow.
It's
gotta be a record.
Not pretty. It's not pretty. And Michigan has to travel to Texas? That is a major challenge in my book. And remember, Texas and Michigan did not meet in the playoffs. Michigan beat Alabama, and Texas lost to Washington in the Final Four in the semifinals last year. I like Texas in this matchup if I'm looking at returning players. And I'm a big believer that quarterback starts matter. So you do have Quinn Ewers at home, and no matter who's starting, looks like it's Alex Orji, but I don't think the Wolverines have announced a starter. He's never played a big road game. You're going to go into a Texas environment in which the Longhorns are fired up. I like the Longhorns, and I think I mentioned that offensive line. Texas can handle Michigan's young and inexperienced front 7 if I'm looking at the matchups right now.
All right. Yeah, man. That's crazy. I think they did set the record for most players to go to the NFL. So a huge turnover here. And yeah,
there's a reason Harbaugh left.
This is a completely different roster. This is just on our lads, the Michigan team.
Yeah,
isn't week 1 he's going to be like honorary captain or something like that?
I think so.
Yeah, that'll be hopefully they don't lose that game. All right, man.
Well, they should. So, does Michigan have yeah. Oh, but let's see. I don't know their opening game. Oh, Fresno.
This is the opening game, Fresno State. Yeah.
They should be able
they're
to
at home versus Fresno.
State
that one, yeah. Minus 21 is a prediction. If they win that, I bet you they could stay at 9, but I think they're going to factor in the team. I'm not sure how far they'll advance. They'll need to string together. That Texas game is going to decide everything for both those teams, to be honest. I would think. Okay, so
if Texas loses it, that's a problem for them.
Yeah, that'd be brutal. Okay, there's just so many good teams. I had USC versus LSU listed because both of those teams lost their starting quarterback, pick 1 and 2 in the NFL draft. So I just feel like we can't leave this matchup off at all. How do you feel about USC versus LSU?
Very big game because you just mentioned new starting quarterbacks. USC just announced yesterday Miller Moss, who I expected. Some people thought Miller Moss might not get the job because he had a poor spring game. but I think I had projected Miller Moss to win the job all year, and I think I had him at like number 26 in my college fantasy football rankings. I don't have him as a Devy prospect yet. I don't know if he has the arm strength, and I've got to see him more. But Miller Moss, this wide receiver depth chart at USC led by Zachariah Branch, they are loaded.
Yeah.
Now, the problem from a college fantasy football standpoint is Lincoln Riley spreads the ball around, my friend. So it's kind of frustrating because you don't get the alpha male. You don't get the guy who's peppered with 150 targets. But that's okay. The offense wins. Lincoln Riley puts points on the board. So I'm very excited about to see this offense and how Miller Moss performs. To me, LSU, we are just in. They all of the big guys left. Brian Thomas, Malik Neighbors, Jaden Daniels. We are up for a brand new LSU offense. Now, I can talk about, Brian Kelly off the field, on the field. This is a football show. So I only talk about, I don't particularly like him off the field, but let's stay on football. He creates good offenses. He finds talent. He coaches up. They have good schemes. They're coming back. Garrett Nussmeier is their new quarterback. I like Garrett Nussmeier. Dual threat guy, not dynamic like Jaden Daniels. I mean, Jaden Daniels was electric and he was special. Nussmeier has maybe just as good of an arm, but not as good of a leg. So I can't wait to watch him. Now, has USC's defense improved? Oh my God, they were bad last year. They brought in a new coordinator. Are they going to at least have some at the end of the year? Caleb Williams is playing hero ball because the USC defense was going to allow 40 points. I mean, if he punted, he was in trouble, which led to some of his dings on film that people saw. That's another story. So can Nussmeier pick apart this USC secondary? Now, they're receivers. I'm all in on Kyren Lacy. If you've been listening to Brian Kelly all off season, he's been chirping a lot about Kyren Lacy. They also have Chris Hilton, who was, I think, a 5-star recruit who just has not come through yet. They're pretty deep at receiver. So other than Kyren Lacy, who's going to come up and be a star? Their tight end, Mason Taylor, is pretty good. He's pretty good. I like him. So he's very interesting to watch him. And their new running back, if you haven't heard of him, folks, young man named Caleb Jackson. He looks like Leonard Fournette. He came in at 240 pounds, dudes. This guy is a load. How good is Caleb Jackson going to look this week? I'm very excited for this game, my friend.
Yeah, I'm excited too. And I believe you got Lacy on that draft board, right?
I did.
Nice.
I did.
Okay.
I'm way invested. I'm probably overloaded on Kyren Lacy, but I can't pass him up in the 6th round if he falls.
Oh, there he is, 5th round. All right. Hey, this guy is standing on it. So, I've got him in one of my C2C leagues. So let's go. They got a lot of talent there. All right, man. You can't replace those quarterbacks, but like what maybe they can do this season. And we got another good matchup for y'all. So let's check this out. We've got Clemson in Georgia, number 1 team, Georgia. They're projected to win the title this year. First matchup of the day, or a lot of 11 a.m. games, but number 1 versus 14. I mean, I think the big question is, can Clemson win without the transfer portal?
I am absolutely perplexed that Dabo Swinney is so stuck that he won't even sign 1 or 2 key players. Like, okay, maybe you don't want to go into the transfer portal and get 5, 6, 7, 8 players like Lane Kiffin at Mississippi. Okay, I get it. But when there are like real legitimate offensive linemen or linebackers or maybe you get a fifth-year safety who could really help your team, like maybe in one or two spots. And Dabo Swinney, if you don't know everyone, the Clemson coach has never signed a player from the transfer portal. He doesn't believe in it. Okay, that's your philosophy. I get it. But this is a new college football. And Clemson still has talent. Yet, you need to plug holes, my friend. When you lose a starter at guard and you can go get a 3-year starter at a G5 program, or maybe from an FCS program who can help your team, I just don't understand why you're not doing it, but that's a different story. They have skill players, Clemson. Cade Klubnik has not reached the potential that we thought, so he's a question mark. But is it because of the offensive line, or is it him? Last year's offensive line was terrible for Clemson. Running back, Phil Maffa. I like Phil Maffa, man. He has shown us some stuff. He's a big back. I don't know if his athleticism is there as a pro prospect, but clearly as a college player, he's just a big bruiser. And considering that, 5 years ago, Clemson was in the debate with Ohio State for wide receiver U, they have fallen off tremendously in the last 3 years. Yet they have two guys who interest me: Tyler Brown, the sophomore, and Antonio Williams, the junior. Tyler Brown had a very nice freshman season, 52 receptions, 531 yards. Antonio Williams had a great freshman season 2 years ago, but he was injured last year. So I'm looking forward to seeing Clemson.
Yeah, man. Antonio Williams, I got it up here just for the folks to see. But yeah, they definitely got some talent, man. So I could have sworn the Clay Klubnik season was starting off nice early on, and we'll see if they have a better season all the way throughout this year. So yeah, I'm excited for these guys. I think I put a little poll in the chat. Who you think is going to win the title this year? We got Georgia in there. I've got Texas in there, Alabama, But how about you, John? Who do you think wins the title this year? So you got to make a prediction.
Georgia's the best team, I think, up and down. But man, that new playoff series, when you have an SEC championship game and then you have to win 2 games and hopefully you get the bye. What if you don't have the bye? You would have to win 3 games. Yeah. So I think there's more opportunity for a slip up. But if I like to bet underdogs, long shots. It's just, we know Georgia's good. My 2 dark horses are going to be Iowa State and Oklahoma State. I like those 2 teams to have an outside chance. And then if I'm going to go the SEC, I like Mississippi. I think they have a chance. But Georgia and Ohio State are clearly the 2 best rosters, top to bottom, in the nation.
All right. Okay, so with that, I'm thinking we can take a look at either I'd like to go and jump through some of your top 10 players. There's still some other nice matchups. I've got Penn State versus West Virginia, got Notre Dame versus Texas A&M. I also was hoping somehow, some way we could talk about this Ohio State team and a little bit of Colorado just for the fans out there.
Can I lead you with Ohio State and then you can take it? Because I think that's a good topic. And it leads into, I just uploaded for PlayerProfiler my top 12 rookie prospects for the class of 2025. And then later in the week will be the numbers 13 to 24. Yeah. Let me just say this. I have 4 Ohio State offensive players in the offensive top 24 skill position players. They are loaded. They are loaded on offense. I actually think Will Howard is underrated, the quarterback from Kansas State who's coming over, and he's the least talked about player on this team. But my friend, Ryan Day has shot up giant flares into the sky and said, I am tired of losing to Michigan. He went out in the transfer portal of all the players you could have picked. He got Quinshawn Junkins, who's my number 2 running back in the class, and he already had Trevion Henderson. I mean, they are literally telling you we're tired of losing to Michigan. We are tired of getting the ball run down our throats. I'm going to control the clock. I'm going to get physical like the Wolverines have. And I'm going to bring, he has 2, I think, arguably the 2 best running backs in the 2025 draft class, which is insanity. Then you bring in Will Howard to upgrade the quarterback from Kyle McCord, who ended up transferring to Syracuse. And then you have Emeka Egbuka, who I have in the top 4 wide receivers coming in, returning, I mean. And then they sign the next Jamar Chase, the freshman Jeremiah Smith. Guys, if you haven't seen Jeremiah Smith's high school tape, do yourself a favor. Go to YouTube and type in Jeremiah Smith. And then Google Jeremiah Smith, Ohio State. Oh my God, the articles from the beat reporters and the Ohio State onlookers. This young man, I'm telling you, he's Jamar Chase. I mean, he's going to be silly good. They are loaded. We're not even talking Carnell Tate, right? Brandon Innes, a 5-star recruit who can barely get on the field. They are just loaded, my friend.
I just traded for Brandon Innes. Just, little. Hey. It was nothing that I gave away, so I said F it. It was just a waiver pick. I say, hey, you can have your next waiver pick on me for Brandon Innes.
There's nothing. You know what? The ceiling, it might only be a 3% chance he reaches it, but it's worth it. You don't know what you're getting on the waiver wire in the C2C league, right? Yeah. So I don't think that's a bad move. And he might transfer next year. Who knows? Remember Jamison Williams transferred to Alabama. Look, he ended up a first-round pick. So who knows? The talent is there. He just went. The school is just loaded.
Yeah, man, it's just crazy. So I've got them on the thumbnail, and this is the team. This is that cheat code team in college football 25 right now. If you don't want to go up against them.
No.
All right, man. So how you feeling about Colorado? I feel like this might be a quick one, but just what are your thoughts on the Colorado team?
So I'm going to start by saying I think they're overrated. That's my first thing. I mean, the national media, I have not really seen this type of love for a good team. They didn't even get to 500 last year. Didn't they win 5 games?
Yeah, pretty brutal.
Yeah, I mean, for the love is really kind of mind-blowing to me. I'm not a big Shedeur Sanders. I'm going to take the contrarian approach here. I think people are way high. He's not in my top 12 rookie prospects right now. I've seen people who I respect put him in the top of the quarterback rankings or in the top 2. Man, I just wonder how much film they've actually watched. Yes, he has arm strength. Yes, he has positive attributes. But man, he takes way too many sacks. Way too many sacks. I don't think he's as smooth in the pocket as you need to be at the NFL level. I have more questions about Shedeur Sanders than I have answers. So I have him at number 3 right now at the quarterback position. And I think I have him at number 16 or 17 at my overall amongst the rookie prospects. So I'm a little older. He needs a little lower. He needs to show me more.
Yeah.
In positive note, their wide receiver room is stacked, dude.
You're counting Travis Hunter in there, right?
Yeah, here's the weird part. Is Travis Hunter a cornerback or a wide receiver in the NFL? I think he's the best cornerback prospect since Darrelle Revis and Champ Bailey. That's how highly I rank him as a corner. He is your classic shut down one opponent or shut down one side of the field. He is just incredible as a defensive back. Last year, I shouldn't say this, but I will. I like to put a little Heisman bet in, just put it underneath my budget, but I'm only looking for long shots. Travis Hunter, I got to 4,000 to 1 for the Heisman. And here's why I did it. Talent-wise, he's a top 3 player in the nation. He should be drafted in the top 5 picks of the NFL draft. That's how talented. And we know the NFL has devalued the cornerback position, but I still think he's a top 5 guy. I looked up the numbers from last year. He played over 1,000 snaps, my friend. 650 on defense, and I might have the number a little wrong, and over 400 on offense. That's insanity, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, he had over 700 yards receiving. So I said to myself, what if I'm completely wrong and Colorado's good? Right? Because there's a possibility. Maybe they're better than I think. Well, if they're better than I think, and they go 10-2, you know why they're going to go 10-2? Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders go off.
Yeah.
So I said, give me the 4,000 to 1 odds on Travis Hunter winning the Heisman. He plays all 12 games. He has 1,000 yards receiving, and he has 8 interceptions. He returns a kick for a touchdown. That's Charles Woodson territory. I go, he might be the first defensive guy, to win the Heisman Trophy or defensive guy since Charles Woodson. So I love that, because when you're betting, right, you have to say to yourself, what if everything I believe is wrong or the season just turns a different way, right? They're not in an impossible conference. They're in the Big 12. Yeah. So there is an opportunity. And if you look, they don't really have a brutal opponent. And what I mean is someone who I'm really scared of until Kansas State on October 12th. And on October 12th, Kansas State, they might be undefeated Colorado. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, Nebraska on the road is going to be tough. But what if they're 5-0 going at home against Kansas State? Travis Hunter is going to, and Shedeur, if that's true, which is a possibility, they're going to be on ESPN. That game is going to, they might do game day from Boulder.
Yeah, they will.
They will, right? Both teams undefeated in October 12th. That's why I chose Travis Hunter. Now, do I think it's likely? No, but it's not. That's not. You look at North Dakota State, Nebraska, Colorado State, Baylor, UCF. They could go 5-0. Not likely, but they could go 5-0.
Yeah, I can totally see it. And I do have to say one thing. You think about that Colorado State matchup. That was the one where Travis Hunter got eliminated.
Yes.
They got that hard hit on him. Not dirty hit, as we thought at the moment, but just a hard hit. But that took him out for many games. I think they I can't remember when it was the season. They might have won one game after that, and then
I think he missed 2 games after that. But he definitely missed some games after that.
Yeah, that the team wasn't complete. You got to give a little credence to, they just got the coach there, the quarterback there that season. So we'll see if they take a jump in year 2. And I think that's good for Colorado. So all right, John, do you have your top 10? Not the OSU guys, but who are some other guys from your top 10 that you're looking at?
Sure. So this is coming out on PlayerProfiler this week, and you can see my top 12. What I do, I'll give you how I have them, but I like tiers, and because there is fluidity from August to January, just as there's fluidity from January to April, right? We know rankings change, but right now, I call it my first team All-American Dynasty prospects. Number 1, and people will disagree, but that's all. It's the Torian McMillan, the wide receiver of Arizona. I love T-Mac. Oh my God, is he good? 6'5", 205, and my friend, for a big man, he's got little man feet. He dominates the boundary. That's why I like him so much. Not only does he have big hands, not only is he physical, not only is he a good route runner, but his feet are tremendous, which you don't always see in guys 6'5". Now, number 2 is Luther Burden. And there might be people who have Burden, and I get it. If you have Burden over T-Mac, I'm totally cool with that. I love Burden too. And what I did is our teammate and our great man in charge, Theo Greminger, who I think you had him on a little while ago, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He asked me to do this article and do player comparisons for our readers. And I have Mike Evans for Tatorian McMillan, and I put Amon-Ra St. Brown for Luther Burden. Not necessarily stylistically, but what I see their NFL outcomes to be. And when I watch the player on tape, what flashes through my mind. So that's how highly ranked I like these two guys. Now, finishing up my first team All-American tier, Emeka Egbuka. I still like him. And my comp is Nico Collins.
Okay.
I was high on Nico coming out, much higher than some. I get he didn't play his last year, COVID, he sat out. And his production profile was never there because Harbaugh just doesn't throw the football. But I was rather high on Nico, and I got a lot of dynasty shares of Nico Collins.
Smart.
I think Emeka Egbuka in the right system with the right quarterback, he could hit the ceiling of Nico Collins. I like the young man from Ohio State a lot, but he does need to bounce back. He has to bounce back this year. Then I like Evan Stewart.
This being your second team? Or is this still first team?
He went to Dan Lanning's offense for the Ducks, my friend. That's the best decision this young man has made from a professional standpoint. Dan Lanning is an exceptional coordinator of the passing game, arguably the top 3 coaches in all of college football. I have Evan Stewart comped to Jordan Addison, the Minnesota Vikings first-round pick. Now, Addison might be a better deep threat than Evan Stewart, but I think they're very similar, and I like Evan Stewart a ton. And my last guy rounding out the first-team tier, we already talked about him, it's Trevion Henderson.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Actually, I have Evan Stewart first team, my friend. Both Evan Stewart and Trevion Henderson. We'll go to the second team in a second.
Ooh, okay. Nice. So we got some talent coming out.
Oh, we do. We have talent. So that's my first. We already talked about Trevion Henderson in Ohio State. He's the running back. Only running back in the first team tier. Now my second team. And anyone wants to go to Player Profiler, you can check all this out. I have my rankings. I have my model. I have all my thoughts why I rank these guys.
And once that comes out, I'll link it to this video as well. But I bet most of the eyeballs will go there first anyway. But we appreciate the sneak peek. You guys heard it here first. Let's go.
All right, second team. I do think there's a tier break between Trevion Henderson and his teammate Quinshon Judkins. The reason I think there's a tier break is Quinshon Judkins, I don't think is as good of a pass catcher as Trevion Henderson. Henderson is more dynamic in the open field to me, and he's more of a 3-down back. Quinshon can catch. I'm not saying he can't, but I do think Trevion Henderson is a better pass catcher, and he's more explosive down the field as a runner. So that's why the separation there.
Okay.
Then,
that was my biggest question. Thank you.
Number 7, Omarion Hampton. He's going to be a very interesting player because this North Carolina offense is decimated. He's literally the last man standing. Drake May left. Their receivers left. Their offensive line left. Hampton's going to be under a lot of pressure to carry this Tar Heels offense. I ask myself, how productive is he going to be with all these changes? And will Dynasty NFL scouts ding him for lack of production? I don't think he replicates last year's numbers. I just don't think the teammates are around him. So it's going to be very important that when you analyze the Marion Hampton, we have to look at the 2 seasons in totality. My comp for a Marion Hampton is Joe Mixon. That's how much I like Hampton. Number 8, Ollie Gordon, Oklahoma State, the Doak Walker winner. Kind of a perplexing. People have many different opinions on Ollie Gordon. I comp him to Le'Veon Bell and Breece Hall. I really like Ollie Gordon. And if he comes out with another 1,700-yard season, my friend, he's going to be a first-round pick.
Yeah.
Or at worst, second round.
Yeah, and in that college game, he's one of the best backs in that college game.
Yes. But, there's a lot of people who don't like Ollie Gordon, my friend. Like, there's a lot of people who are really down. I like him very much. I'll say this also. I love when I do my research in July. You come up with wild stuff. Why I like Oklahoma State, their quarterback is in his 7th season of college football, Alan Bowman, which is just crazy. And 2, do you know the age of their 5 starting offensive linemen is 23 and a half years old?
Oh, my God.
They basically have they basically have a pro offensive line at Oklahoma State. And I think they've all played in over 20 games. So their offensive line and quarterback will help Ollie Gordon. So the production should be there. Then I broke my simple rule. I put Jeremiah Smith. He's so good. I had to write him up. We just talked about him, the wide receiver. He's unbelievable. I broke my own rule. But I just can't. He's a true freshman. Just got to watch him. We talked about him earlier. Absolutely loved him. Then I have quarterback Carson Beck. He's my number 1 quarterback out of Georgia. He's your prototypical big arm pocket passer. NFL's going to love him. And he has more opportunity with his legs. He's a very good manipulator of the pocket. He can get first downs when he has to. He's not a complete statue. I like Carson Beck. He's my number 10. And my 11 and 12 to finish it off, running back Nicholas Singleton, Penn State. I have not given up on him yet. His freshman film is great. 5-star prospect coming in. Penn State changed their offense coordinator, my friend. They have not let the public in or reporters to their new offense. Even in the spring game, they played vanilla. They didn't show anything. The players, when you read Penn State quotes and players, they wax poetically about this new offense.
Oh, all right.
So I mean, hey, James Franklin has not shown us that he can be creative on offense, but maybe he's learned something, that he needs to be more dynamic. Does that make sense? So,
yeah. And what you got? A year 2 quarterback and Drew Aller. So, yep. I mean, he might take a step forward. He's penciled in as potentially making that case to be a first rounder, depending on how the season can play out. So,
yes. So I do like Nicholas Singleton in that Penn State game this year. And finally, I know I broke the rule, but my last player, I like Trey Harris, wide receiver out of Mississippi. He's up and down draft rankings. But when I like a player, you can't be afraid to take a stance. And I think Trey Harris, he comes from Louisiana Tech. He transferred into the SEC last year. He had over 900 yards receiving. I think he's going to get over 1,000 yards. Mississippi, I told you, I really like Mississippi. I like Trey Harris, man. He's got NFL size. He's a boundary receiver. When you put him into a model, people are going to be very impressed. Early breakout, possibly over 300 career catches. Everything's going to be there. And he plays in the SEC. So I'm going to go Trey Harris. All of these are fluid, but this is right now, as what are we, the 20th of August? This is where my rankings stand. And later in the week, I can't give you any more, are players number 13 to 24.
Yeah, hey, appreciate it, John. You killed it, man. I'm looking forward to that article. I'm gonna check it out, and guys, I'm gonna post it here in the description later on as well. But this is a good list. I know you said you broke your rule with a couple rookie wide receivers, but those teams are relying on those guys out of the gate. So we're gonna see some big production from them. And I mean, just from a fantasy perspective, I mean, guys, we've got a ton of receiver talent coming out, like always, but we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 running backs potentially that could help us going forward. So, man, this is potentially a stacked class that we're looking at. I know some of these guys are a little bit younger, but yeah.
I want to say something. I think the running back class is better than the wide receivers. And I think we're legitimately going to have, now I think 1 or 2 will pop up into the first round. I think by the end of day 2, we're going to have 9 to 12 running backs off the board.
Yeah, because even a Donovan Edwards, who really only had the playoffs as good games to show, he is a pass catching back. He'll have a third down role somewhere. Maybe he goes in the third round, something like that. But there's still other running backs that are going to be filling this class. So we could really see kind of how we had that quarterback transition where we got this influx of young talent at the QB spot. It's about time for the running backs as well. I mean, there's so much talent coming in. So, man, John, I really appreciate you coming on. Guys, man, that's it for us. I wanted to, John, give you a chance to again plug what you've got going on, and again, thank you for coming on the show. And after that, I was going to get one final hot take for us to end the show on, but go ahead and plug your stuff first.
So all my stuff for the first year, all of my draft profiles from the class of 2024 were on Player Profiler. It's great to join this new team. I've been working on rookies already for next year, so you can see I have 3 articles up right now on Devy rankings. So that includes, freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and the upperclassmen. So that's right now on Player Profiler. I think I posted them in June. So the rankings, I just updated the rankings yesterday. So if you go to the articles and you find them, there's a link to my updated ranking. So you can go see all those. Like I said, later this week, we just went over my top 12. That's coming out on Player Profiler. And then later in the week, numbers 13 to 24. So I'm looking forward already to the 2025 season and working with the team at Player Profiler. You can see all my work there. And all my college fantasy stuff is on Fantrax. All my rankings, my player profile, my player profiles for college. And college fantasy is different than NFL, Dynasty, Devy. You have to understand the subtle differences. But yeah, they're all up on Fantrax. And thanks for having me on, my friend.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you coming on. So, guys, follow John at Gridiron Scholar 91. You can follow me on X at Dynasty FK. And, John, I'm going to hit the outro right after you give the hot take. You don't have to give any real analysis behind it. I just want the take, and we're out of here.
Jackson Dart wins the Heisman Trophy for Mississippi.